All right. Hello, I'm Gregory Clark, and this is a Love Tour Media broadcast. We're here today to talk about a very timely, important issue with Nick Alabastro. He's an officer here at the Collier County Police Department. And this video is going to save lives and build better communities and really kind of put the fork in all these police shootings and homeless shootings and all these things that we've been having going on. It's been a really busy week the last couple of weeks. And so we want to talk a little bit about some of the solutions. We Patriots in the social network spend so much time talking about when somebody doesn't do the right thing, or somebody makes the wrong decision, or somebody or a mentally ill person does something crazy. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what the solutions are. And Nick is involved here, and he's with the CIT, that's the Crisis Intervention Training. It's a 20-hour program here at NAMI. And it trains police to deal with conflicts and things with the mentally ill. So NAMI is the National Association of Mental Illness, and it's sort of a love tour thing. It's basically more love and more understanding and more activities and all kinds of wonderful things that you're going to see about the NAMI Center and the clubhouse and the gardens and the programs that we do here in Collier County. And we feel we have a bit of a model community here. We'd like to see these programs picked up all over America and hopefully stem some of this violence that's going on and a lot of the stereotypes that's going on. We know that almost all of our police department are good people trying to do the right thing, trying to get better at their jobs. But so often we highlight on a mentally ill person that does something bad or a police officer that does something bad. So Nick. Say your last name again.
Oh, sure.
I'm bad with that. Tell us a little bit. I know Nick. He told me that he came for the training one day and he was so impressed and he thought that the program was so important that he became a volunteer, and he's working not only with the program but coming in and working with the mentally ill. The NAMI Center isn't just mentally ill people. You could have medical problems. You could have financial problems. Life may have taken you down a dark road, but we're here to talk about the hope and getting people back on track and getting purpose in their life again. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about this program.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, by the way, Greg.
Thank you.
And this has just been a great experience for me so far. I've been volunteering for maybe 2.5 weeks now, and like Greg had stated earlier, I took the CIT training for Naples Police Department, and the next day I was so impressed with how everything was run and all the great people here at NAMI, and I wanted to get involved. I wanted to participate, and I've been coming 3 days a week and just being able to talk to everyone and have a good time with. There are moments that I'll cherish for a lifetime, and there's some really great people here. And just to recap on what Greg said, the CIT training, teaches us officers, hey, just take a second to understand these people, okay? Understand what they're going through. Don't be so, straight-edged and so aggressive. Talk to them just as you would anyone, okay? Because they're people just like me and you, okay? And everyone has problems and no one's perfect. So, this training taught me, hey, when you deal with someone who may be mentally ill or may have financial problems or anything like that, just take a second to just breathe and just talk to this person and try and see if you can come to a situation without any conflict, without raising your voice, and because I believe in de-escalation and being able to talk with someone.
It's important, Nick, I think, to remember that you folks are always kind of at the tip of the spear when it comes to a lot of these problems, and something, maybe it's a conflict with a neighbor, maybe it's a conflict with someone at a store. Where they run into, something happens. And you gave me a good story last week. You were talking about two neighbors, and one was throwing rocks at the dog.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Give us an example of how sometimes the police may avert, the normal process of arresting someone, putting them in the system, causing more animosity and possibly violence even, and tell us about how you dealt with that situation.
Sure. Okay. So I went to a call a few weeks ago of a neighbor that threw a rock at the other neighbor's dog, and so I get there and I'm thinking, all right, I don't know what this call is going to be like. I'm imagining two neighbors yelling at each other and screaming at each other and getting each other's face. So I get there, and both neighbors are at their house. So I go and talk to the initial reporter. I get there, I go inside, and I ask her what's going on, and she said, "Hey, we've been going through some conflict with this neighbor. We've been having disputes over the last couple of months. We can't see eye to eye, and they're doing stuff, to their house that's not allowed, and they're having all these cars parked in the street, all this, this civil stuff." And I said, "Okay, well, the reason why I'm here is because of the dog. I heard that there was a rock that's thrown at a dog. Is there any way you'd be able to show me? Do you have any cameras?" And she said, "Yeah, I do." She actually had the whole thing on camera. She showed me exactly where it happened. And in fact, the neighbor did throw a rock at the dog. And I saw it, and I talked to the neighbor. I said, "Hey, listen, what would you like me to do?" They said, "Hey, we don't really want you to take any law enforcement action. Just, go over there and maybe talk to the person." I said, "Okay, no problem." I give them a case number. I said, "Hey, the detectives will be in touch with you now. Okay, the case will be in their hands. I'll go over to the neighbor and talk to them and see if we can, kind of find a mutual understanding here." So I walk over to the neighbor, and I talk to the gentleman, and, at first he kind of denied it, that he didn't throw a rock at the dog. I said, "Sir, I saw the whole thing on camera, you throwing the rock at the dog." And he said, "Yeah, we've been going through all this conflict and disputes the last couple of months, and the dog, barks every night, keeps me up, and my wife, this and that." I said, "Okay, here's the thing, sir. I'm not going to take you to jail, all right? I'm not going to write anyone any tickets. No one's going to get in trouble. I just want you guys to kind of come to a mutual understanding, and you guys can kind of look past this. Your neighbors, they're not moving anytime soon. You're not moving anytime soon. You guys need to resolve this and maybe work this out." He said, "Okay, thank you, officer," and I went on my way, and hopefully the neighbors are able to see eye to eye. So.
Exactly, and that's what the Love Tour is all about. And I think that I would like to see that hopefully you're going to share this to your blogs. You have my permission to share this to the blogs. Share it to your groups. Share it everywhere, because we need this to be a model program. We need other police departments across the nation to get involved with this and to take on the program, and also maybe look at the NAMI program. Basically, it's a whole new approach to mental health illness. What they have going here, it's not psychiatrist based, in that some people take medication and things, but it's more about the ways that we can improve the qualities of life for people through maybe helping them get a job, getting them some food. They do group therapies here. They go to movies. They go bowling. They do improv. They do all these different programs. It becomes a wonderful club, a wonderful clubhouse. They're expanding. They're putting in showers. A lot of times people just can't even get clean. Nobody wants to be around stinky homeless people. Let's go ahead and get them a shower. So these are some of the things that we'd like to talk about. And this is the NAMI of Collier County. If you wanted to contact them and learn more about their program and maybe see what you've got for your community. A big part of the Love Tour is of course, we're associated with the American Patriot Union, which is you can see at auat.org. That's auat.org, and we have a similar mission statement that basically we're for God and country and the Constitution, and we also stand for our veterans. We stand behind our veterans. It's a basic, simple format that 23,000 patriot groups are coming on board, and that we can basically all disagree about all sorts of political things, but that basically if we can stand behind the Constitution and the rights that are established in the Constitution, that we should all be able to stand together and become a voice when it's necessary. And but here at Love Tour Media, we're a voice for love, and so what we want to talk about is some of the programs, and we're going to walk around this facility here in a little bit. There's a couple different buildings, and there's also a beautiful garden out back. So we're just going to take a walk through here and meet some of the people and take a look at the facility in the garden. And hopefully some of you will start thinking about your communities. Because remember, as much as we worry about foreign wars and all these things, politics always starts locally. And we have to look at your community. You can look at your community. You can look at you could have police monitors or court monitors and go in and see how the judges are doing. You can go in and create your own media, your own newspaper, your own community network. And the American Patriot Union will have its own social network. We've all gone through a lot. Mr. Zuckerberg was on in front of the Congress admitting his horrible behavior. And, of course, we've had Diamond and Silk on this week, and they made a big splash highlighting how they're censoring us and shutting us down and trying to stop our message. And so all these things play in to Love Tour Media, and that we're sort of the answer. We're more comedy and more love and more loving solutions, and trying to get away from this constant hate that we're getting in the news that's also instilling a lot of the violence. When you preach hate all day to a person that maybe is suffering from mental illness, it's not necessarily good for their psychology. So I also hold the media complicit in a lot of these things that are going on. And so this is about solutions here today, and we're going to talk about some of the programs that they do. They provide transportation for the people here to get here, because a lot of people don't have transportation. They give bus tickets, they give financial assistance. They help in every way we can, and I think this is an important part of what we're talking about today, is communities learning to help communities. A lot of times people think, well, if Big Brother would just take care of me, if the government would just come in and give me a check. But see, we don't grow as people by getting a check from the government. We grow as people by getting out in the community like Nick's doing. He took it all on his own to get out and meet people, get to know the community. There's resources in our community. There's potential employees in our community. The resources to take care of ourselves are often in the community, and this community does a very good job. So we want to take a look at Collier County and how they're meeting their needs. All the salvage food goes to a central place. All the fresh produce and meat and the things at grocery stores, they send once a week to Golden Gate. So not wasting things is a big part of taking care of each other, and we do a pretty good job here in Collier County. A lot of people don't know that 25% of the food that's produced gets mislabeled, or a can gets dented. It becomes non-saleable by government standards, but that doesn't mean that the food is not good. I've worked with salvage food houses for 30 years. If your local grocery stores are not setting up a salvage food house immediately, they need to be. Because there's no use throwing 25%. Now, maybe not all of that 25% is good, but maybe half of it's good and half of it's not, for example. But they wash the food, they relabel it, and then they give it to pantries and keep the national bureaucracy. Even charities can become national bureaucracies, all these things. But it's a way for them to do it directly and kind of keep the government out and keep the big-time charities out of it, and just help in meeting our own needs. We often forget that most of what we need is right in our communities. In American Watersheds, I tell a lot of stories. I tell about the steel mills closing, and there was 50% unemployment in Gary, Indiana, and how we mobilized 1,200 community organizations to try and meet this incredible need in the face of incredible adversity. And so I tell a lot of stories, and I guess, don't hit me, Nick, but I tell the good and the bad. I really do. We start off in the 30s and talk about, the police who side in the Battle of the Running Bulls, which basically gave birth to unions, the middle class, civil rights, women's rights, all came from that one strike. It was my grandfather's strike back in 1936, 37, and the police kind of are on the wrong side of that one. They got all their police cars burned, and they chased them for miles. That's why it's called the Battle of the Running Bulls. I talk about Flat Top Williams and his partner that were serial killers in New Orleans, and police officers now convicted, now in prison because of my co-producer of the Les Kettricks All-Star Band. They killed a person on her porch, and it took 7 years, but justice finally was done. But it's a great story of the microcosm of learning how the media gets manipulated, how the city politics gets manipulated, the city politicians. But she never let it go, and in the end, they are now convicted and in prison. But I always tell the end of that story, too, is that two police were at the end of the block, and she came out, and they said, "We want to talk to you." She said, "Oh, okay." So she came out and said, "Well, what do you want?" She said, "Well, we want a hug." "You want a hug?" She said, "Yeah, we want a hug." So she gives them a hug, and they said, "We just want to know how a little old lady with 12 little kids running around the yard took down the most powerful and corrupt and abusive and evil police in the city police department. How could this possibly happen?" And she said, "Well, word of mouth." And so that's what we're talking about now, is word of mouth. That together, when we get our own social network with 20 or 30 patriots, we want to promote positive things. We don't always want to. Sometimes we have to go over after an injustice, and we have to highlight an injustice. But more than that, we want to highlight what the solutions are. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things. And I also talk about the MC5. Of course, all your music stars from the Beatles, Bob Dylan, all these people. These are all my personal stories, or they're stories of someone in my family. Luckily, I'm related to 3 presidents. That took me back 200 years. But it's either my personal story or a person that is one of my close personal friends, and it's their story. But that, between my life as a music producer, you get to meet the stars of Michigan, all the rock stars, all the stars of Motown, the stars of New Orleans, the stars of New York. So people always love it for the star power. I've got stories never been told. I don't go over other people's history or regurgitate old history. I basically put in the missing parts of history. And so what we talk about are the great activists that have been left out of history books, the great women activists, oftentimes. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to save people like Merlene Kimball that really went out and did something. And I will say also Merlene has probably done more for children and education in New Orleans. And I would have to say she was one of America's most important activists historically. But and she's appeared before Congress, she's done all these things, but would never make it into a history book. And so these people need to be in history books. I don't know exactly what history we've been teaching in college, but there will be a college lecture tour. The Les Getricks All-Star Band has played thousands of famous records and famous concerts. I mean, Graceland, Bob Dylan, just about any person you can name that was a major star. Maybe not in the most recent years, but a major star in history, the Les Getricks All-Star Band, or a member of them, played on some of their records. So they're an incredible band. They'll be available for the lecture tour, going back and touring the universities and educating these young people, teaching them about their history, teaching them that love is always the answer to everything, personal and political. Love and power of the people defeat any army. So it's not about guns, and it's not about anything but love. What our basic mission is love, and that's what we believe. And I know that smart people can avoid violence, and through better policies, we have more loving policies, more loving communities. So that's a little bit about that. And of course, American Watersheds covers all sorts of things. But that's some of the things that I'd like you to see. Now, I would like you to go out and get an ebook right away. We need to get this college lecture tour kicked off, and you can help by going buying an ebook wherever you buy ebooks. American Watersheds 1 and 2. The third part is my favorite. It's called Spirit of Love, and it's where I really become an American change agent and really change some things in America. I'm not going to tell you all about it, but there's enough great movie links. This is all movie and music links, so there's all these great movies you didn't even know about that you get to watch. There's all this wonderful music from New Orleans and all these places that didn't necessarily register on the pop charts, but is the real deal, really good stuff music. And you'll be able to find these links and go down them and hopefully have a lifetime of good music and movies and stories. It's written in comedy. The kids today think that the textbooks are really bad. They're not exciting them. They feel like it's a real dread to have to go read their textbooks. And so this is a way that I made the textbooks fun. It's ongoing comedy. It's music. It's movies. But in every story, there's lessons to be learned. And these are important lessons, the very most important lessons that we could really teach our kids. And for the kids today in college to not know our own history, which seems to be the case in many cases, that they're just not learning our own history. By doing that, I like to say that by learning our history, we'll know how to repeat it. And I think that's really true, because I think in the Battle of the Running Bulls, what we learned was that all these people had thousands of guns, and they were shooting us, mercenaries, Pinkertons, police, GM security, vigilantes, everyone Ford could hire, or, everyone General Motors could hire. But in the end, we won just with bodies. We didn't have any of that. There was a few injuries, but no one died. And I think that's an important lesson that really gets left out of history, because what it says is that we always had the power. There are 535 old, weak, corrupt, drunk politicians who determine everything that's happening for our country and speak for us. We know in the Princeton study that if 100% of us want a law, it has a 30% chance. And if 0% of us want a law, it has a 30% chance because they really don't care what the American people think. They really just don't care how many of us think anything. They basically serve the lobbyists that pay their pay their campaigns and take care of them. And we really have become irrelevant to the government. And that's why we're forming the American Patriot Union, where all the patriots can get together, have our own social network, not have to face the abuse that we've been facing every day. If you're a patriot, you're in Facebook jail all the time. You're targeted. I was the first activist targeted. I was targeted by Google. 6 million plays counted 6,000. None of my videos will ever be monetized. Now, 3 years later, it's happening to everyone. All the conservatives are taken off YouTube. Their videos can't be monetized. So I've kind of been chuckling all along. I was the first to report on Fox News that Hillary and the DNC had hired all these trolls to come bother us and distract us and keep us from this mission of love. And now they have robots. In case you haven't figured it out, all those people contacting you on Facebook are robots. So if you ask them an in-depth question, you'll notice that the robot cannot respond. You'll notice that if you say, what did you think of this post, or give me an opinion of this or that, you won't get a response because you're basically being distracted by robots. And so the things that Zuckerberg and Google are doing are nothing short of criminal, nothing short of treasonous. And so we're forming another social network for patriots where we won't have all these problems. And that'll be coming to, and you can stay up to date at that at AUAT.org. American Union Against Tyranny is what the original organization was originally. Now it's the American Patriot Union. But that will be up soon, and you'll want to go in and get signed up to our mission statement so you can stay up on updates with the American Patriot Union.